Chrono Odyssey is out now as a beta test. Now I pretty much went in blind, not knowing what to expect, and so I did spend quite a few hours stumbling around figuring out where to go and what to do. So in this video I want to give you 10 essential tips to get you on the right path so you don't feel too lost. These are my 10 starting tips, and I'll have them linked in the video description below so you can skip to any one you're most interested in. Towards the end of the video, I'll give some initial impressions and what I believe is holding the game the most, at least from my experience playing so far. It has a lot of potential, but there's a few issues. So tip number 1 is in your options. I highly recommend limiting your frame rate to a maximum. This will give you a ton more stability, and it will vary on your device how much it can handle. I'm currently capping it at 60, but we still only just about get by with that. At least in the open world it's fine, but as soon as you enter the hub area, it's struggling to get like 30, 40. In gameplay settings, if you're like me, you will get annoyed by your HUD continuously disappearing. So just disable that, put it on off. Additionally, I like to also be able to see my crosshair, so enable that to always be on. So when you enter the open world map for the first time, you're going to be here on this beach. What you'll want to do is make your way to the main hub, this little town. You're going to start out on this coastline just here. You're going to make your way up this path and end up in this hub area. You should enter the village just through these gates. You will find an NPC just past this entrance, but over here. This vendor will give you the very important gathering tools. You're going to need these to start. Buy a sickle, pickaxe, logging axe, butcher knife, fishing rod. That's the very first thing you want to spend your coins on. If you don't yet have enough coins, you can do some quests and you simply follow the NPCs with this gold circle above their head. You speak to them and they'll give you objectives to do. As a bonus tip, interact with your stone here. This is where you're going to quick travel. You're going to unlock other stones. You see the symbol like this here. When you visit them, you will be able to now fast travel to them. Additionally, you can head inside the tavern here, speak to the man, and then you'll be able to use that as a fast travel point back. You can see you can select this and you can select return once every 10 minutes. You can alternatively just die and respawn back at the town. It will give it as an option. But tip number 3 is getting your mount, so you can get around much quicker. You can do this ASAP. No need to wait around and to do other things first. You won't need to kill anything. So you're up here at this village. What you're going to need to do is make your way along this path, and you will want to bypass these stones. These will allow you to fast travel. You will continue further along, and you can see just here is the icon for a horse. You will speak to that NPC who's just under the canopy again with that gold circle above their head. And she will give you the quest to get your first mount. You can see on the map the gold circle. That's where you need to go. You can press J and you'll find all of those quests and basically make sure they have a star if you want to be following that quest. Now actually catching your horse is a little bit annoying. You have to try interact with one of the white horses. You can see here I interacted with it, and even though it moved far enough away, my character was still interacting with it, and that was it. You successfully completed the quest. The horse is mine. You return back to the NPC, you finish talking to her, and then you will need to talk to her again, going to the store, and then taming that horse you just caught. You will have to spend that like horseshoe. And then you will need to equip that horse by clicking E by default. Now you can press your mount up key, for me it's T, and you can summon that mount to then ride around. All your keybind settings are just here. Next tip is crafters. Once you hit level 5, you can craft yourself a much better green set of armor and weapons. You can see on the map with the town here, this is going to be your armor guy and this is going to be your weapon guy. You're going to go to the workbenches here. So this one is with all those suits of armor. Interact and you can see what you can craft. You're going for this green stuff. You can see the materials I personally went for the heavy stuff. So we just need lumber and we just need iron ingots, and that's for every single piece. As for the weapons, the station is just over here. Again, you interact with the table, and it will depend on your class which ones you want to craft. And again, you're going for the green ones. Look at stats that you think might be useful to you. And again, you just need iron ingots and sturdy lumber. In order to get those processed materials, you go just over here, you interact with the bench, and you can see this is where you're going to get your upgraded tools. You'll want to get green ones ASAP. And then you can see with regards to mining, we can then craft those iron ingots. We're just going to have to get iron ore. You will go out there and simply mine some iron ore nodes. Should be very easy to find ones out here or up here. Anywhere where there's like rocks and stuff, you will find them, but you will also find higher tier nodes as well, like even titanium, and you are able to mine it even with the lowest level tool. It just takes a long time. Just isn't much point to it because you will not be able to make use of gear that uses titanium until you're level 15. You will, trust me, need that green gear to get to level 15. Logging here as well, you can see you can create the sturdy lumber simply with mature wood. Simply find mature trees and chop them down. Now I guess that just encompassed tip number 5 as well. This is your processing area. Again, you will find it on the map in this main hub with the hammer and the flame. And this is the main city. West Wind Hills, and then the actual crafters are just a bit left from there with the weapons and the armor over here. Next is to do your bounties. These will give you some decent rewards and materials, allowing you to skip some of the grind. When you interact with this bounty board, again, when you look on the map, the icon for it, when we zoom in, is just this skull and crossbones. You will interact with the board and it will show you these wanted posters. There's one of them you have to skip, which is going to be this guy. Do not take him. Tomb Raider Arlo. Every single time the guy bugs out and you can't say claim his head. I've been here, killed the guy like 5 times, and it's the same thing every time. So just skip him by not selecting him. You select the second option and that will skip to the next guy and simply accept it. And you can see these rewards, and one of the rewards is the bounty tokens. You speak to this guy, which is the person you will talk to every time you return back from completing a bounty, and you can purchase these rewards. That includes certain materials here and these accessories. They won't be useful to you until you're level 15, so you can just make sure you have 150 of this currency. You can see how much you have, I believe, by hovering over the bounty token. It shows I currently have 0 owned. And yes, for those bounty guys, you'll have to look a bit around. But again, if you follow the quest chain, it will show you on the map a little circle. Be aware, some of them can be quite difficult. Tip number 7. What to do with spare gear. You're undoubtedly going to accumulate a lot of junk and you may not know what to do with it. Well, you need to go to the salvage guy. You just go over here on the map in the main hub. The icon will be like a shield that's broken, and you'll speak to her and you will salvage some of your equipment. Simply click it and then you can click E and it will automatically go over here, and when you go ahead and salvage it, you'll get a bunch of materials back. Tip number 8 is storage. Over time, yes, your storage will fill up with tons of random items that you may not know what to do with yet. Don't discard anything. Simply go to the chest icon, again in the main hub, and you can interact with the warehouse. You have lots of spare storage here, plenty of room to put all of that junk. Tip number 9 is make sure you're geared enough for trials. At a certain point, if you do enough quests, you're going to unlock these trials. It is the icon on the minimap just here, like a minecart, and she will give you keys to enter a trial. If you die within that trial, you lose the key, and you can't say restart unless you have another key. You're limited by how many keys you can get. So make sure you're adequately geared for them so you aren't losing out on those rewards. As a bonus tip, if you run into the NPC Melody and are stuck what to answer, because she gives you a bit of a questionnaire, the first answers unending cycle. You go to the next, and this will be to revere and respect Chronos. Then the third one is to help others accept their fate. The fourth will be embrace past. The fifth is significant events throughout history. And then you are done, and you will get the reward, and you'll get the next quest to proceed on. The final tip here would be the chrono gates. You do not have to rush these, but they're quite the challenge and can be quite a bit of fun to test yourselves. I would recommend, yes, having some decent gear for the level you're at. Like, you can easily do the first chrono gate at level 5 with some green crafted gear, and later on you might need getting to say the fourth gate to be level 15 with blue gear. It's all going to depend how good you are at, say, blocking and avoiding damaging hits. And also range classes will have somewhat of a more favor in that, with regards to melee classes having to block hits and still taking a little bit of damage by doing so. And so eventually you will die if you aren't killing the guy quick enough. But that's pretty much it for my top 10 starting tips for Chrono Odyssey. Again, it is just the beta, many things open to change. And well, my initial impressions is it's a bit janky and not very well optimized. Again, like we're saying, right in these hubs, I only have 30-40 FPS. It's pretty atrocious. It feels pretty bad to play. Along with that, the lighting just seems way too glaring. In an attempt to get more FPS, I have reduced the quality of my settings, so the game doesn't look as great. But when we're outside of town, our FPS does go to a much more comfortable 60. But again, the lighting, it seems the contrast's just off. The sun's too bright and makes colors washed out. They definitely need to make significant improvements on that. What I just showed you here was on medium settings. We can go on epic. I probably can't go on ultra with my kit, and you can see it can look quite a bit better here with those improved settings. Yes, far better, along with the sun kind of setting, so it isn't so washed out. So the game has potential to look really good. You just need quite a high-end device, and honestly they need to improve optimization. I'm only getting like 30 FPS here. That's not really acceptable for an MMO these days. You want to at least get 60. If you're wondering what my specs are, I'm running a AMD Ryzen 5 5600X as my CPU, and then my GPU is a Radeon RX 6700 XT. So these are quite a few years old by now, and even when they released, they were more the budget-friendly CPU and GPU that were available. But ultimately, I do find the combat is a lot of fun. If they clean up the performance issues so you always have decent FPS, I'm sure it will feel even better. Each class has the ability to choose from 3 weapons, of which they take 2, and then you're going to have 4 skills from each of these weapons. And you do have quite the selection here, different upgrades, passives and active skills, and it does feel quite a neat kit. I will say though, at these lower levels, you end up quite a lot of the time waiting on cooldowns. If you're in a fight where you might die, you kind of want to take as little hits as possible. And so you'll go in, use your powers while they're off cooldown, and then kind of disengage or just block attacks. That way you aren't taking unnecessary damage. Your auto attacks do decent damage, but compared to, say, your active skills, they don't do as much damage, and they will miss like the CC abilities, which can allow you to avoid damage because your enemy gets staggered, so can't hit you back as easily. But over time, I'm sure there'll be things which will give you, say, cooldown reduction and allow you to use those abilities quite a bit more. When you're more adequately geared up, I'm sure as well, it won't be too much trouble to just auto attack more because you either have a tank in your group or you can just survive the enemy hits a lot better when you have more practice with blocks, parries and dodges to actually avoid enemy hits altogether. Again, I am just starting out in this game. So overall, I hope this was somewhat insightful. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys around. I'll be sure to give more encompassing review after I play it quite a bit more.